The Business Oddcast.
Hello and welcome to the Business Oddcast. Can you believe, uh, this is number 9? Can you believe this is number 9? I am your host, Stuart Morrison. This is the ineffable, inestimable, and awesome.
Bigged up too much, Hannah Logan. Can you big somebody up too much? No, I
I don't
like
think you
that.
can. I want to be your hype man.
Yes.
You know, like, I know, performers of all types. Elvis had one, James Brown had one. The hype man, get the crowd worked up.
Like, hey, here
And
she
then
is.
I'm going to get one of those air horns. Wah, 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 wah,
Maybe
wah.
we could have some kind of stars in their eyes smoke that comes up around me as I appear, like, yeah.
No. Well, it's lovely to have you back for another one of these business oddcasts. I must say that I'm enjoying this process. It really is. It's been interesting, especially being new to this journey myself, relatively speaking. And as we record this, is only a few days before I get my final official "this is what we think" meeting. And I tell you what, they're going to have to rewrite the DSM if they say, no, you're not at all on the spectrum. You're really normal. Oh my God.
I really hope there's a real problem in the system if they say
If
that.
he does, I'm literally
Nothing
going to say, no, go away. Think about it some more. Go away. You haven't either I have not communicated how
Which
strange
bit
what.
did you miss, Matt, psychiatry man? What were you missing? Oh dear.
So anyway, yeah. So a few days to that, but that's coming up after the weekend. How's your week been? What have you been up to? Been doing anything exciting?
Exciting. Yeah, what have I been doing? Yeah,
Writing blogs?
I'm not going to pretend that it was exciting. But yeah, doing a bit of hard work, getting through it.
Keeping your energy levels
My energy levels haven't killed anybody, that's a bonus.
with a
Quick
shovel or other garden
I've
implement.
never killed anybody before anybody starts like unfollow. Turn off the podcast. There's a killer on it. Yeah, no, that was just a joke. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, just struggling through. Actually, no, this week hasn't been a struggle through. Some weeks are a bit struggly. This week's been like a going down the river, no choppy waters. Get to the end, step into the weekend, like phew. But yeah, sometimes you're like dragging yourself along the carpet to the weekend. This one's been good.
Sometimes you're doing that kind of commando crawl,
Yes.
staying below the bullets.
Just one more day.
Nearly to the weekend. Who decided that 5 days on and 2 days off was good?
It
Mm.
is ridiculous. I try. I know this is a topic for another podcast, but I try as much as I can to either make a Monday or a Friday a chill day. There's always invariably the odd email, but I try to, as much as I can, make it not a work day. So I'm going for the 4-3.
I've had 4-3 for many,
Mm,
many years, and
really
the
important.
the extra day really helped me. Really, really did help me. And the upshot of it was
Mm.
I got more done in the other 4 days.
Yeah, yeah.
And those aren't longer days, they're just more productive days. So yeah, no, I'm a big fan of the 4-3. I think everybody should have a 4-3. Everything more chilled, wouldn't we? Don't get me started. Right, so topic of the week.
Well, after what you just said and what I just said, it leads really, really nicely into the topic because the topic this week is rewriting productivity, or maybe we could call it reinventing productivity. So, what we're looking at here is the kind of hustle culture, that kind of hustle culture that was born from a kind of the capitalist model of hustle culture, which is kind of work more, rest less, prove your worth throughout, through output. If you're not like burning and crying your way through the workday, then you're not working properly, you're not productive. We want to see the tears. That's probably not the exact, dictionary.
It's quite a long title. Maybe we contract it a little to neurodivergent productivity tips going beyond hustle culture.
Yeah, and it's kind of
Avoiding hustle culture.
it's avoiding it, but also
Fixing it.
it's how we look at what it means to us. What does productivity mean to us? Because it isn't, if we only look at productivity with the idea that the value comes from constantly working, grinding, sacrificing rest, etc., then we constantly, or we run the risk of feeling like we're losing all the time, right? Because actually, as NDs, we need rest. We can burn out, all of that stuff. So, if we think we're only winning, we're only productive if we're working for 18-hour days, then we will be very disappointed. So we need to rewrite what productivity means to us.
Yeah, interesting. I was doing a little bit of reading about this, about this whole Gary Vaynerchuk kind of like keep going, work harder, work longer. I tried that and I broke.
Yeah.
And I've tried it on a couple of occasions. Different varieties of gurus come along and they say, try this, try that. And I'm all about working hard, right? I get that. I understand that to make your way in the world, to put a dent in the universe, um, you you have to expand some energy. You have to go at it. The trouble comes when you think that by doing more, you will either earn more or get more or have more. And I've got to ask the question is why? Why do you need more? And I get it. If you're right at the bottom and you haven't got much, more's going to seem very attractive. But
Yeah.
when is enough? Enough.
Yeah.
And that's my constant question whenever I start working with a small business owner is why are you doing this? What's the end goal? Is this
Yeah.
to build it, sell it, step away from it, have other people run it, be a consultant, or is it a lifestyle business that gets you to your pension pot and you're just going to pay into that? And when you close the business, the value goes away and you sail off over the horizon with your pension pot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think to understand what the productivity needs to be at the right level, you have to understand what you need to live, thrive, and survive. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
It,
basics, fine, but how much more than the basics do you actually? What I'm probably driveling on about is let's say you have to work a baseline amount to get basics:
yeah.
food, light, and shelter, a happy family. You know, just the basics, not holidays, not fancy cars or any of that, just the basics.
In the roof above you. Yeah.
I worked out very early on that I'm actually all right on quite a basic life. I don't
Humble.
want lots and lots of rooms that I don't spend much time in my house. There comes there's a finite amount of time in your life, a finite amount. That's one thing that we were all agreed on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Start and an end. We don't know when that is, but and I've always thought to myself, who conned us into needing all this shit? Just like
Capitalism. Capitalism.
I
No.
know, but you can say no. Do you know what I mean? It's like sign up for the broadband special deal and you'll get all of the sports channels. No, but Stuart, I like the sports channels. That's fine. But just know that you are sacrificing some of your energy,
Yeah.
finite amount of it, whether that's time or literal physical energy or both, into earning that money, however you do that. No shame in however you do that. But you can't get that back. It doesn't matter how much more of this that you've got, the money, you can't get any more of that back. So that is the rarest thing that you have. Are you prepared to exchange that for 80 quid a month to watch football? To watch millionaires run around and kick a leather ball? People with way more money than you'll ever have. I don't get it.
No, I don't get it too. And I'm really similar to you. And I think it kind of, without going off on too much of a tangent, I'm the tangent queen. I guess it comes down to how we as individuals define success, because we live in a society where we are unfortunately led to believe that success means, the better car, the bigger house, the shinier watch, and a lot of us don't buy into that. And I think that's absolutely, well, no, I know that is absolutely okay. And yet I do feel I'm exactly like you, but I do feel the pressure. I don't buy into it, but I do feel that pressure of like, oh, sometimes I describe my house to people and I say, oh, it's quite small. I feel the need to say that. Why do I feel the need to say that? It's actually perfect. It's perfect. It's just what I wanted, you know, for my life. And yet we make it, sometimes we can feel like we have to make excuses. And that's why this topic is so important, because actually, if we look at what productivity and success means to us, then hopefully, we become at peace with that, because if we are hitting our level of what makes us feel successful, then we're not constantly feeling like we're failing in some way. Like if we're kind of hitting all those targets, our targets, then we're living a successful life on our terms, I guess. Bit of a tangent, sorry.
No, no, no. I'm going to see what you've just said, and I'm going to introduce a new idea that we always talk about risk in business.
Yeah.
Risk, you're always balancing risk and reward, the opportunity versus the risk, being paid or the idea not panning out and you having spent money on it, whatever. But risk and reward. Very rarely as business owners do we turn that around and go, what's the risk to me
Yeah.
personally? I'm not talking about financially, because
Yeah.
that in effect is a function of the business
Yeah.
risk, you know, your financial well-being. But what is the risk to me personally? Do I risk, and this is a concept that happens later in life, lifestyle risk. So I was
Yeah.
talking to my uncle, and I was saying my risk profile has changed massively. My appetite for YOLO is very much diminished these days. And he said, and he's absolutely right. I thought it was like settling and being content. He was like, no, no, no. You're considering how much of your lifestyle you're willing to risk to achieve
Yeah.
whatever business goal you set yourself. He said, and that is just good business.
Mm.
If you're going to go all in on red
Yeah.
on one spin of the wheel, and you've got 3 years to retirement and you could lose it all, that is completely different to a 20-year-old pushing it all in and going all in on red, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got enough time. And I've always said, when you're young, you've got enough time to make quite a few mistakes. I know.
Mm.
I,
Learn
I, I,
better. Yeah.
I did. But so that idea of the productivity and the hustle is like, okay, yeah, yeah, but at what risk? And so then I introduced my second thought is the Italians came up with a response, or it was born in Italy, I believe,
Yeah.
came up with a response to fast food with slow food.
Excellent.
And the idea being that food that you cook slowly, that is grown slowly, that is enjoyed with friends and family because you have taken time to slow down in the day and enjoy your meal, is way more beneficial than cramming a burger in as you drive to your next appointment.
Yeah.
Just from a human point of view, the nourishing the soul with the food and the people and all the rest of it, this capitalist stripping away of let's get
Mm.
the human to let's just put a tube in their throats and just force feed them like geese, and we're losing and touch with that side of ourselves that I realized. It took a few iterations, but I realized and accepted that actually slow business is what I want to do, because like all things that boom bust really quickly, things that go up come down, and they usually come down at the same rate they go up. So
The
internet
highs are
trends,
just
fads,
crashed into
yeah.
the, yeah.
Whereas if you grow a business over 30 years and you've got contacts that are 30 years strong,
Mm.
you can go and knock on their doors and have conversations that you can't have when you're knocking on the door saying, "Hi, I'm the shiny latest newest thing."
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's slow business, and I believe local business is much like that. Is that
Mm.
reputations? People will stand back and go on then. Let's see if you can last 3 years before I even begin to have a conversation and trust you with my needs as a supplier.
Yeah.
I want to know that you're in it for, and that can be difficult to overcome, that initial
Yeah.
flywheel effect.
I really like that because I think we can, and I certainly get sucked into this. Sometimes for me, there's that element of desperation with a new potential new client that overshadows that kind of, are they a good match for me? Will they be a massive pain in the ass and I'll regret my choices? But actually, I've done that so many times over the years, and I still do sometimes. I think like I just need to get this new client, and when they arrive, I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that they were going to be really bad. I knew that this was going to happen, but I kind of pushed that out of my brain because pushed that out of my brain because the panic and that need to have another client kind of overshadowed logical reasoning. I like what you were saying about slow business. I wonder if we took that concept, then what could productivity mean to us instead? Maybe it would be about redefining it as kind of focusing more on impact, creativity, rest, energy management. Maybe productivity is not the hustle culture. How quickly can you do everything? How, the faster attitude. Maybe actually it's about the impact that we have and the creativity that we put in, but actually balancing that with our energy and rest. And it's that kind of work-lifey balancey thing, isn't it, really?
I reject at cause the entirety of the concept of productivity
Hmm.
in slow business,
Yeah.
and here's why. So productivity, Stuart, you've got to have productivity targets, and why do you have to have productivity targets? Well, because you have to hit certain incomes and but why?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of this for big business, the answer for all of the whys that you come back to will be shareholder value. Doesn't matter what business,
No.
doesn't matter what business. Any business with shareholders, the driving force of the board is shareholder value. Will this increase money paid to the shareholders this year versus last year? Because if it does, then our stock value goes up. We get a bonus. We get pats on the back. We're driving the vehicle in the right direction at the right speed. But you can't make more and more and more profit. You just can't. There's a finite level, and you can point to graphs and you can point to all the rest of it. Think about this. We live on a finite resource. Okay, it's a big ball of rock hurtling through the space, and it's got a finite amount of resources. I don't care whether we're peak oil, past peak oil is around the corner, whatever. We will eventually either run out of oil or we will run out of the ability to find the reserves that make it worthwhile to tap them.
Yeah.
And this is already happening in places. Certain reserves are just being shut off. Now, you could argue, well, eventually the price will go up and they'll be switched back on again. Maybe, yeah. But finally, at some point, we are going to slurp all the dead dinosaurs out and we're going to use it. Now, I'm not pro or against or pointing and saying we shouldn't do this and we should do that. Finite. There is only so much. We don't live on a ball of oil. Oh yeah, but Stu, there's tons of that stuff under the ground. Yes, and do you know the gargantuan amounts we are using on a daily basis? Every piece of plastic, every aircraft, every just don't get me started. We are over consuming. And I think that this drive for productivity at all costs, no matter the human cost, no matter the finite nature of what you're trying to grow. We need to grow GDP. Who says? Why? Why do we need to grow GDP? Nobody's excited. Well, if we're not performing on the world stage, and You know, the people in Samoa seem to be ticking along quite nice, and I'm sure they've got societal problems, and I'm sure that they want to improve their lot. That's because the greedy West went round and went, we'll have that, we'll have that, we'll have that, we'll have that. Again, I don't want to get into politics, but it's this need for product. We must. Why not just produce enough? Why not just earn enough? Enough that you've got enough, not too much. Not, I'm not saying change your lifestyle, but you know, I shop in second-hand stores when I need something. I
Vintage
make
quick.
stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like if we went back to a much simpler lifestyle where we didn't need stuff from Temu, we didn't need 40 apps on our phone that we're all subscribed to just watch some telly. I'm of the point none of this. I don't care. Many of the times I'm just staring at these shapes moving around, thinking about my own things, and I think that comes with age.
But but then maybe the point is that productivity, it is about redefining it, not just for neurodiverse people, but actually it helps me for sure. If I think of productivity as not just being linked to earning more and doing more business and business stuff, but actually maybe productivity to me is making sure I nurture myself enough, making sure I eat the right food, maybe making sure I rest enough. Maybe a productive life isn't about, I don't want to get too deep on this, but maybe a productive life, that's the point, right? It's not productivity for creating stuff, but actually maybe being productive is all those different aspects, because productivity to neurodiverse people does not look neurotypical, right? Neurotypical is a lot more hustle culture. We don't have the capability to buy into that hustle culture. And also, a lot of us are not minded to think that that is our goal.
What if instead of a hustle culture, it was a happiness culture, and we decided?
Yeah.
So I've been through various therapies and counseling and all the rest of it, CBT. And one of the ones, I can't remember which one it was, but one of the therapies I went through, I had to keep a mood diary.
Hmm.
And it was very simple. It was, I think it was a one sheet, and you
Yeah.
printed off one a week. And each day it had how you felt, whether it was a smile, neutral, or unhappy. It might
Yeah.
have been five, smile, smile, smile. And then you put wrote down things that you'd done.
Yeah.
So very simple things like, I went for a walk, or ate my favorite meal, or, had a stressful day, whatever. And then after enough of these, I think it was 4 weeks, they would then go through it with you and try and pick out any recurring patterns, because those patterns might occur. Your mood might be affected 3 or 4 days later, you know.
Hmm.
And that really, I really like that, because it taught me that how I'm feeling today is not necessarily a predictor of what I am feeling tomorrow, both good or bad. But don't judge tomorrow based on today.
Yeah.
So it's more living in the moment, enjoying the moment, or at least reducing your horizon down to today. I can't manage tomorrow. Tomorrow is a foreign country. I've no way of. I can set up some expectations and some, things, but I, I can't change. Like, let's say the government decides 100% tax for everyone. Well, I can't do anything about that. So carrying that around as a possible burden, put it down. So learning how to track my mood,
Hmm.
maybe that's the productivity. It's not the productivity, it's energy management. It's how much energy have you got left after working, almost like a
Yeah. Yeah.
reverse productivity. How much energy am I allowed to have to enjoy a life that I find puts a smile on my face more than it puts a frown? And that's kind of what I've done. I've over the years, there's been many opportunities where I could have blown businesses right up, and I just had to step back from the edge and think to myself, when we had the Ents business,
Yeah.
I was working. I had a young family, and the entertainment world is fickle at best.
Yeah.
And when, well, you would you would know this, but the point to it is, so when people ask you to do something, you say yes. You just say yes because this might be your last chance, and that sticks in your head. And so you say yes a lot, and it becomes a habit. And then you find yourself working 31 gigs over 28 days and trying to cram Christmas and New Year's into that with a family, and then just destroying any sense of happiness, like just literally grinding it out. And the lifestyle at the time wasn't necessarily extravagant, but it certainly wasn't stripped to the bones, you know,
Yeah.
growing stuff in the garden. And when it exploded and all fell apart, and I found the core of what actually made me happy, I think I go back to that more these days of like, you tried to do that, you tried to blow it up, and you did. And it worked for a while, but it was a wild pony ride of, you know, emotions and stress and
Yeah.
lack of sleep. And I think, and I may have said this before, I think a lot of young neurodivergent minds make up with their youthful energy uh, the gap between what is nourishing them and going to make them happy and society, commercialism, capitalism, whatever you want to call it. And as you age, that shock absorber of youth, of energy, of
Yeah.
that surfeit of exuberance gets washed away, gets, you know, stripped off you, and eventually you realize you either have a breakdown or you realize. And unfortunately, I think 99% of people, they have a breakdown and then go, oh, this
Rethink.
shit don't work for me. And
Yeah.
we see them at the networking events. I've just stepped out of corporate. I realized it wasn't a good fit for me anymore.
Didn't do the 9 to 5 and
Whatever, however you want to label it. This isn't just neurodiverse people. This happens to neurotypical people. This lifestyle inflation occurs and they don't realize they've got a finite amount of time, and all they're doing is putting more and more pressure on themselves to live a lifestyle that what they're being told to live.
And it doesn't, like you said, that a lot of those people stepping out of that corporate 9 to 5, when they're neurodiverse, our brains clash with that kind of traditional idea of productivity. We work hard between 9 and 5, or if you're really unlucky, between 8 and 6. This kind of, we don't have linear energy cycles. We have executive dysfunction, we have time blindness, we have sensory overwhelm, we have like self-critical horrible voices, some of us, or probably most of us. And
Oh.
a lot of people, and we see them, like you said, at networking, are stepping out of that for that very reason. So maybe coming back to the sort of topic of productivity, maybe actually we can offer up here some kind of neurodiverse strategies. You've already said one about sort of along the lines of energy mapping, understanding our energy and working with that, and not kind of, you did it where you just turned up energy to, 150, and you had to learn that. But actually, you and I will have got a few years between us, will have worked out some strategies for the neurodiverse brains where, we all know that 9 to 5 generic productivity does not work for us. But once we've defined what productivity means to us, then actually what can we do to get through that working day, whatever we decide that working day looks like? Maybe it's 2 days a week, but how do we make the most of that time? There are loads of strategies, aren't there?
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean, the, the that qualification of what is deemed productivity
hmm,
is that the idea that output is all, output is everything.
yeah,
Doesn't matter what the toll,
hmm,
output. And that's what I challenge at a root cause is
yeah.
I don't think that output alone is a healthy way for a neurodivergent mind to consider. Wait, let's think about this, right? And not everyone, I get it, not everyone has a superpower that can make them a genius like Einstein or a creative powerhouse. But you think about it, when any of the greats have produced any of the artwork,
Hmm.
that has been classified as fantastic. Do you think they were thinking, oh, I bashed that one out in an hour and a half,
So
crack
productive.
that one out in a week? Fabulous. I'll do 5 of those a month and I'll be
A
million.
zillionaire.
It's not like that. It doesn't, they talk about the muse. Actually, the muse is several things coming together, which is the energy, the motivation, the inspiration, the, just that crucible of all those things mixing at the same time. So I think that's also why those creative industries, and I've worked in a few, it's very, if you go in on a Monday and somebody was like, come on, everyone would be like, chill, dude.
Oh my God.
You really need to stop the coffee that early in the morning. So shifting from hours work and output achieved to impact created
Yeah.
and progress made,
Yeah.
but also maybe throw in there some human side of it as like contact hours with my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
Recharging.
crave contact hours with the humans that nourish my soul. And so
Mm.
why would I spend any more time than necessary? This podcast is an absolute island in my week because I get to spend time with you, one of my favorite humans.
Yay.
But and this doesn't feel like work. And that's the other thing. Doing things that don't necessarily feel like work, but you excel at.
Mm.
So I think you're right. That measurement of just business is all about numbers. It's all about that kind of achieving bigger numbers or lower numbers, and I, I just, I just scratch my head. I don't know. I've always thought, why more? If I die with £1 million in the bank and my children don't know me, did I win?
Nope. No, I mean, I spoke to only once. I spoke to a very overly zealous business coach a while back. And she said she looked at, I'd given her a little plan of my week sort of thing, a guideline to how I spent my time. And she looked and went, you spend an awful lot of your time doing free stuff, Anna. And I said, the free stuff on that list I gave you is the only stuff I enjoy. Literally. And she meant work related, I do voluntary stuff
Yeah.
and like this podcast and stuff. I was like, but that's the fun bits. You know what? But I love that. I will never get rid of that stuff. I absolutely love it. Why? I don't judge it on whether it gives me money or not. I judge it on whether it gives me joy.
Fun, joy. Where's that on a balance sheet? Where
Yeah.
have you ever seen fun and joy? Maybe that's where you start. You give yourself a score every week for how much fun you've had. Imagine that. Imagine that. They went round to every employee and said, how much fun did you have? How much happiness did you generate for you and your family? How
Yeah.
much contact
Yes.
time with your family? Do you know what I mean? It's like, let's look at some of these metrics. Let's put some of those on the balance sheet. If you're talking about decarbonizing the economy, let's de-hustle the economy.
Yes.
Pump the brakes on the economy. Oh no, Stu, you've got to have growth. Yeah, the human
Right.
toll of that. Consider it. Don't. So energy-based scheduling then, sort of looking at your week and going, I know I'm crap on a Monday morning, and so I make sure that my Monday mornings are doing things I don't have to think about. They're just like click, it's some people might go, what? But I do my bookkeeping on a Monday. I tend to do Monday day.
Nice.
So
That
I,
worked for me.
I check up on various things, and if I get that done in the day, my day's done. I don't have to do any more. That is it. I have done my day. And if that means that I can get out the office at 9 o'clock in the morning, yes, I go in at 8 and I'm out at 9 because I've ticked all the boxes. Why do any more? But Stu, you've got to do work, actual work. Well, I've got systems in place that mean that I don't actually have to spend time for money. And I can't get this across to people enough. There are ways of setting up your self-employed life and having a lifestyle that it supports where the money can come in. You share the wealth with other people who are good at doing the bits that they do, and you take the bit for the bit that you are, which includes setting up all those people to do the work in the first place and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah. And it's like, we've said it before, but just working out what works best for your lifestyle and creating that kind of work environment for yourself that just feeds into everything you need. I mean, you were saying about energy and stuff. For me, it's about planning, and you've just said that with your Mondays. It's about planning around my natural energy levels, my natural rhythms. I know for a fact I'm much more productive generally, much more productive in the evenings. I was writing a blog at 1 this morning. I was on fire. I was literally churning out one of the best. I mean, and she did reply to say it was great. That
Yay.
was from a previous conversation.
Yay! Last week we were nail biting. You left us hanging.
I'm not
Hannah gets a yay. Of course
um
you did. Of course you did.
But if I told that client, and I won't, unless, oh God forbid, she's watching this, then she'd be like, "What the hell? Were you writing my blog at 1 in the morning?" And I would say, "Was it good?" And she'd say it was brilliant. And I'd say, "Let me worry about when I write my blogs." And that's the beauty. I know if I had like today at 11, I've got to write a blog. I don't know that today at 11, whatever that day is going to be my blog zone. It probably won't. So I wait until I hit those kind of air pockets of energy, that rhythm, and I'm like, okay, it's almost like it's now. It's now. Grab a pen. Where's
Yeah.
the laptop?
I'm
You
writing a one-man show, and I know exactly what you mean. It's when you sit down to write, when you're stood in the kitchen staring out the window, wondering where that drip's coming from off of the neighbour's guttering, and suddenly your brain just goes, and now here's the inspiration. And you're like, oh, right, I need, where's my phone? Gemma walks in, starts talking to me. She knows now. If I'm like that, it's not that I'm on social media or like doing something dodgy. It's like I've had a thought and I'm noting it down whilst the thought is literally speeding through my head like a speeding train. And if I don't write it down at that moment, gone.
My phone is just a wealth of voice notes where I'm driving along. I drive along, I pull over, I'm like, thought about a LinkedIn post, and then I just rattle off a thought about a LinkedIn post for next week. And it's genius because it's dropped into my brain and it's just like magic has appeared. Even I'm driving along, oh my God, stop the traffic, get over. And my point is, although I'm joking as well, it's true, but I'm making it funny as well. But my point is, if I was like, get to the office, sit at my desk at 9, I've done that for years, and I'm sure you've had to unfortunately do that too. I did that for years, and I'd sit there, and this was before Facebook and all the other rubbish that we could while away the hours with. That was me sitting at my desk, staring at my computer, thinking, if my sales manager comes in now, it's really obvious I'm doing nothing because I have nothing. There is nothing going on here. I've got no energy. Literally nothing. I can't even go on Facebook because it doesn't exist at this point. Just brutal in the 90s. So, but now, and also the other thing, I started when I first was self-employed, I started blocking. I do still do this to some degree because it means I don't miss tasks and stuff. But I started blocking, like Monday will be this work day, Tuesday. And then I found myself going, oh, Monday didn't work out so well on that blog. So now I'm like, it's chaos, chaos.
No. The idea of that is that. So I always say, if you want to get stuff done, take your to-do list and put it in your diary. Now,
Yeah.
that's all very well and good. And I hear what you're saying. Like, oh, what if I show up on Monday to write a blog post and like, that's why you need 4 days, 3 days, because
Yeah.
you have a floating day. And Friday is my floating day. So I move things around in my diary as I go.
Yeah, same.
And like if I wanted to write a blog, and I've done this week, I sat down to start writing a bit of the. I've got a lot of notes, and I needed to collate them for this one man show. I didn't do that. I ended up animating a wheel of misfortune in PowerPoint
Which was
for 4
amazing.
hours, but it will get a huge laugh on the night.
It was
So
good, though.
you know,
It was so good.
laughs versus productivity. Yeah, I could have done it in an hour and it would have looked shit and I wouldn't have got any laughs. So it's a 4. Yeah. But the point to it is that I've moved the thing and dragged it through and moved it because I'm in control of my own time.
Yeah.
So I have pushed it through until this afternoon.
Yeah.
And not early in the afternoon, late in the afternoon, because I want to do something. And
Yeah.
I know that that early thing will distract my brain enough that when I sit down, I've got all the notes now collated. I've got some bits and pieces, and I've got some stuff that I've been riffing with. I've got enough, like I've stocked the warehouse that when I sit down, all I got to do is throw a match on it, and it will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but you see, that you don't get there from doing it once. You know, this is God, 20 odd years of you start writing and you think, I'd like to write, I'd like to be funny, and then you know, it's like any skill like this is you start out hoping, and then eventually you get really blasé. We go, yeah, that'll kill. Yeah, that's a really funny way of saying that. People will laugh at that, and you've got used to you've got used to your own sort of tempo, phraseology.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally hear that of setting your week up from a, if I did 4 days work, not 4 12-hour days,
I know. No.
4 6-hour days.
Yeah.
Okay. And early,
Will come.
if I was talking to somebody who was like early neurodiverse journey, you know, they're looking at this, start looking at your job, start looking at when you are productive and when you're not. And if you're being forced to, like you, I've been in situations where TAD, that's your manager's biggest number. TAD, time at desk.
Yeah.
Did they sit there for 8 hours? They did. Yes, brilliant. Tick. I'm doing my job well.
I was doing nothing.
The fact that you've done nothing for 4 days and then on the fifth day you do everything because suddenly you're like, oh God, my brain's woken up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But why do you need to sit there for 4 days? That's where self-employment is fantastic, because you're like, I've got other projects. I've got lots of other bits and pieces on at the moment. And I've had 2 weeks of lying flat. I mentioned this before. I had 2 weeks of lying flat, and I knew I had to do it. And I have to get to the point where I'm bored. Like literally, it's almost like a soul crushing depression of nothing to do. I'm not trying to take away from anyone who's genuinely depressed, but it's just this kind of ennui, this just kind of like, oh, the weight of doing nothing. That's when my brain is like, time to get weaving. And and then it's almost like I have to push myself out the door
Yeah.
of, you need to go and do this or you need to go and do that. And then once I'm in, I'm you know what it's like, 20 minutes of doing the thing that you love, and then the world just melts away, and it's like 4 hours later and you're going, I really need to pee.
You just totally, yeah, I haven't eaten anything, I haven't drunk anything. It's
Yeah,
gone
the
back
kids,
outside.
the amount of times where I'd get a text from Gemma, how are the kids? What kids?
What kids? We said that at the same time. Oh, I have
Yeah.
them. Too young
Oh
to-
yeah. Yeah, they look fine.
Still alive. And
Are
that's
those mine? Binoculars. Yeah, they're fine. Only a minor wound on one of them.
With it. So another thing I was thinking as well, when we're talking about, you know, both you and I have said we're kind of blocking in our kind of to-do list on our calendar of sorts, but we've got that kindness, is that the right word? We've got that flexibility. We've learned that we need that flexibility, that if Monday doesn't work to write that blog or to write that script and stuff, it's absolutely okay. There's no shame. I'm not hurting myself. I'll move it into Tuesday. All is cool. That's fabulous from a kind of natural rhythm, working towards your natural energy levels and all that stuff. But also for me, that physical on my calendar block, like wrote a blog, when I remove that, and that's another bit, I don't know if you do this, I delete it once it's done. The dopamine is like, yeah, like a little battery's just been, another new battery pack has been popped into my brain, and I'm like back in the room. Tick, did it.
But Mario
Zoom.
power up.
Yeah, it literally is a whoop, like the big mushroom thing that everybody understands about Mario. So actually, and I know that I need it. And early on in my career, I was doing sales roles, and I enjoyed a lot of it. I didn't enjoy the kind of, you know, target setting and all that rubbish. That's a topic for another podcast. But I did like the kind of sold it, tick, ping, dopamine, power up. And I think if we can build those kind of feel good moments, whether we call them dopamine or whether we just kind of call little novelty moments that recharge us a bit, then that's what makes, for me, that's what makes my work doable and fun and not something that I get to Sunday night and I think, oh, like we were kids going ready back to school on a Monday morning to get brutally bloody
Bully.
bullied.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, I'm going to get head banged on the freaking lockers again.
Here's a quick question. Sorry to cut across, but here's a quick question. So hustle culture, that it's risen and risen and risen. Everyone's got a hustle. Everyone's got a side hustle. People have got multiple side hustles. They've got a main job. They're just doing this to try and earn enough to live. And in
Yeah.
some cases, like this isn't lifestyle inflation. This is genuine inflation. This is just everything costs more. I'm going to have to get a second job.
Yeah.
The the problem that I find that it's a very macho kind of like grind it out. I can do 60-hour weeks. I can use
Yeah.
60 hours. It's a bit like the old Four Yorkshiremen sketch. You think that's hard? That's nothing. Bloody luxury. 60 hours.
20 miles with no shoes.
I work 200 hours a week. I've got a time machine so I can go back and work another 40 hours.
Without any sleep.
Tell that to the younger today, and they'll shrug and ask you if you want matcha in your coffee. I tell you what, the young have got it a lot better than we have. My daughter and her friends are so supportive of each other.
Yeah.
Not like me. If I'd gone to my mates,
Generation.
been sledged, not that I had many, feeling a bit stressed, wimp.
Man up, shut up.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't understand what man up means. What's man up? Man up. Don't
My
know.
child, when my little boy, who's now 18, not so little anymore, but my little boy was 6, he got told to man up at school. And when he came home, he was very upset. And he was told to man up because he was crying about something. He was very overwhelmed and he was crying about something. The next day, he did not go into school. I went into school in his place and gave the head of English, or whoever she was, not head of English, it was primary school, his teacher, his class teacher, I gave her a really long lecture on how you don't tell anybody, and you especially don't tell a little kid to man up. And yeah, I don't think she told anybody that ever again. And I think I was definitely on a poster in the staff room, like, this woman, don't let her in again.
He's on the watch list.
I was on
Careful.
the watch list of like, yeah, she causes trouble. But yeah, I've gone off on a tangent. It's not unusual, but
But I think these stories are incredibly telling,
yeah.
and I find it's what I find so ironic. I've been seeing memes, similar sort of things, but from what we were talking about the other day, are you too much? And we decided that it's not that you're too much; it's they're not enough.
Yeah.
But isn't it ironic that you're too much, and yet your productivity is not enough?
Oh my
We can't
God.
have it both ways. I'm either too much or not enough. What is it?
So it's all right if you're too much is working too much. That's yay. If
Yeah,
you're too much is being too happy, talking maybe too much,
too enthusiastic.
then you're rubbish. Oh my God, what mixed messages is the neurotypical world
I do
sending?
like a rule, Hannah, as you know. I like a hard and fast guideline. I like to know where I'm at, and if I've got any ambiguity, I like to make sure that I have not got the wrong end of the stick, because having got the wrong end of the stick on way too many occasions, I'm old enough now to look before I leap and ask some clarifying questions. I don't care if somebody goes, "Is he stupid?" No, 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 no. I'm just preventing my autistic arse fucking taking what you've said and doing it literally, and
Yes.
then being told off. Let's rewind the tape. You said do this. Yes, but I didn't mean like, well, then should have said, and not like this. But we too many times, too many times. And that's what really annoys me
Mm.
is you're, like you say, too much in that arena, but not enough in that arena. Well, guess what? I'm going to take the arena. I'm going to hold the arena. I'm going to have my own arena, and I'm
Yeah.
going to do what I fucking like in it. And guess what? You don't get to come into my arena unless I go and knock on your door and say, let's do something together. Hence this podcast.
Exactly. So who decides? Who decides what is too much? When too much is actually perfectly acceptable, but when it's actually completely wrong. And actually, it feels to me like the too much is all right when we're burning ourselves, we're churning out the work and breaking ourselves. But too much is not okay when we're actually having a lot of fun.
Well, you see, again,
Bizarre.
the suits, when I'm wearing the suits, the question I get asked most is why? Why the suits? And my question always back is why not?
Yes.
Where, who, where was the, I didn't see the law passed that says that you
Get the
have,
memo that said no fun suits.
like, I know when you go into Next, it's this season's grey, this season's brown, and this season's black for men. You know, for color for men. Oh, there's an exception. You've got two exceptions if you're a man. A lumberjack shirt. You can have an outrageous coloured lumberjack shirt.
You
Nobody
can
bats
own
an
that lumber.
eyelid. You can look like Rupert the Bear. Nobody's going to bat an eyelid. All right. As long as you've got dark trousers on, you're golden. The second one, the Hawaiian shirt. The Hawaiian shirt you're allowed to wear as well if it's very loud, and you can wear it in a kind of ironic, kind of I'm
Very
being
stag
retro.
do.
Yeah, kind of, or a loud t-shirt maybe. Those are the three options, but it's usually either a band t-shirt and or like a retro TV reference or cultural reference, which is great. It's fine. I'm not judging you for your references. You do you. But those seem to be the standard fitting in. And like I've said before, you walk up to somebody wearing a bright pink suit, it's all on you that point. You've chosen to engage.
They just don't. What it is, so at the moment, I won't go into boring details about my health, but at the moment, on one of my legs, I require a lot of the time a support sock thing because I have problems with the veins in one of my legs. So I got told I had to wear it. So I went onto a website, I won't advertise it here, where you can get really funky looking ones. So they're not just your kind of hospital support stocking.
Oh, funkytightsocks.com.
It's called not your grandma's, and it's basically support because I guess it's just. I mean,
Yes.
oh my gosh, shout
Yes.
out to not your grandma's.
Yeah, fantastic. Love that. Love that.
So, but I only need to wear one. They're very uncomfortable. My neurodiverse brain is like, nope, I'm not wearing a pair of those bad boys because the other leg does not require one. All the time, I get asked, why have you only got one sock on? It's not a sock. I shouldn't have to explain myself. It's a funky support stocking.
I've got a one-word answer to that. Cancer.
That will shut them down.
I want you to fuck off now. Can we continue? Shall I talk about my lesions?
Do you want to see them? I'll take the stocking off.
Would you like to lick my lesion?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna say.
Yeah. See,
Because that would shut down. But why? So I also sometimes have to walk with a stick. I'm not painting a great picture of myself. I'm also really amazing. Physically, not so much at the moment. Sometimes I have to walk with a stick every time, and it's always so far an older person. Why have you got a stick? Because I need it. Why are you walking with a stick? Mind your own business. I'm not going up to old people saying, why have you got a Zimmer frame? Why are you on your special scooter?
why are you wearing glasses?
Why? Just why? Why?
Yes, I'm asking myself that right now. I take it off and you're a blur, and that's much better, That's what they get with me. And it comes out unbidden. It's like when people come up and ask me stupid questions, I give them stupid answers because I figure I'm not wasting any brain cycles in actually taking this. And this is one of the things media training does for you. So in media training, one of the things that politicians will get told quite early on is question the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't accept the root of the question. Question the question, especially on a difficult topic, one that you don't want to be drawn. So why do you think productivity is the issue? Well, you say that. You say, why do you think productivity is the issue? But I've never said that productivity is the issue. I've said that the causes of productivity or the things that cause lack of productivity. Do you know what I mean? We've all heard this on the
Yeah, it's clever.
news. well, it really is quite clever. So that's what I always default to. That if somebody asks me a question, it doesn't mean to say they've got the right to ask me the question. Doesn't mean to say that the question is in any way, shape, or form appropriate. So I can reject wholesale the question with usually a pithy one-word answer. Cancer. Yeah.
You're right. Just shut it down. Either like
Don't need
that.
it. Don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because actually the reality is, and now it isn't funny. The reality is that could be the exact reason why I'm walking with a stick or I've got a funny stocking on. They don't know when they're asking. They're being so nosy that it doesn't even occur to them that the answer might be, yeah, because I've got 2 months to live and this stick is getting me through those last 2 months. I mean, yeah. My friend, who's very funny and was with me on one of these occasions, said the next person, after this person walked away, she leant over and said, Hannah, the next person that asks you that fucking question, you need to say it's for hitting nosy old people with. Why have you got a stick? It's for hitting old people, nosy old people with.
Oh, you
Not
just qualified.
it's
Qualified
for
right
this
there.
crunch.
When we travelled, so when we were entertaining, one of the acts that I used to do was Little Britain, which was a Little Britain tribute act,
Really good.
and I won't be drawn as to my thoughts about that, but we used to travel with the wheelchair, and
Mm,
quite a lot of the times we'd fly to gigs,
yeah,
and I've got to say that the training for the airlines that we interacted with, which was mostly Virgin and British Airways, there was some
yeah,
EasyJet stuff. Nobody ever said, "Why have you got a wheelchair? You're both stood up. Why isn't one of you in the wheelchair?" That, and this is what people don't realise, that 80% of disabilities don't
yeah,
present externally.
yeah,
So when you see somebody going into a disabled bathroom, walking in, and you thinking to yourself, well, why? They may be trying to change a stoma bag. They may
yeah,
be, they may have other issues, not just physical issues that you can't see. They might have mental hang-ups about, the entire process of going to the loo. So anyone who gatekeeps that or polices it, and it's the same with parking, the disabled parking. Um, there are people that don't qualify for a blue badge, but would benefit from not having to walk the entire
yeah.
length for whatever reason. And so let's just all be kinder to each other. And that also comes all the way back to the productivity thing. If you're, I've said this before, if you're holding a pint and you're doing that and that's all you can hold,
Yeah,
don't beat yourself up that somebody's trying to make you carry a pint and a half. Because
yeah,
if you can't, you can't. You just can't. And I've accepted now. I thought it was me just like that contentment of just like, oh well, this is it. It doesn't matter how. And suddenly realizing, actually, you've done really well to get to this point with your sanity intact, a functional family, a lifestyle that affords some very interesting and lovely things to do, and isn't like, I'm trying not to kill the planet with my choices. That alone is like, I give myself a standing ovation whenever I think about what I've achieved in my life and not ended up in a padded cell
or a
with
prison.
all of the
Now, this is where you tell your prison stories. We won't go into that. Just kidding.
they were nobody's surprised. Really? You went to prison? I didn't go to
No.
prison. Didn't go to prison. Um, But the point is, judging your own productivity by looking across at other people and going, well, they've got two cars and they go on holiday regularly and they've got a bigger house and they've got this and they've got this and they've got this. Yeah, but what's the toll? Even if they're neurotypical, what are they? What is, big salaries come with big asks. Nobody pays you a big salary in a corporation. Like I say, shareholder value. We could get your skills in as much as you might think you're a unique, bright rainbow and a high spot in your industry. If somebody thinks they could do your job cheaper, I mean, look at AI. Nobody's coming along and saying, "Do you know what? You are a winning. You have a winning smile, so you get to keep your job." No, they're going to be looking at your job, going, "Oh, we think we can do this with a large language model." Quite frankly, because all you're doing is sorting data. So we're going to do that where it doesn't cost us £72,000 a year or whatever. And unfortunately, you know, that will lead to a lot of people realizing actually we don't need 2 holidays.
Yeah.
We don't need 2 cars. We don't need all of these fancy things.
Well, I think I've gone slightly in a different direction, but actually I'm concluding from this that comparison is the thief of joy. And when it comes to productivity as well, if we are constantly like, oh, productivity looks like 9 to 5 and that's not me and I'm not measuring up, I'm rubbish, shame, shame, shame. Actually, that's the point, isn't it? We create our own productivity. We work with the way that we work best. We don't get drawn into this is what it's meant to look like. And then we work in our own environment, dancing to our own tune and living our best life. All a bit idealistic, but pretty true.
I've worked out over the years that I'm happiest when at the start of the month I know I've covered everything. And it doesn't matter what I do in that month. I can cruise, I can do more. And what I find is by stepping back from the grind, I see more opportunities to do the things I like and get paid to do those. So I'm not constantly a hostage to fortune because I have to work 40 hours a week. Why? Lifestyle choices. You know, at some point there is when you're a runner, and that's what I do when I'm when I'm enjoying myself. I like to go and run for 10 miles, and I'm not joking. I'm not joking. It's like the ultimate stim. It's like endorphins and repetitive movements. Oh, sign me up. Listening to EDM. Oh, that's my happy spot.
So you must cover a mile in seconds.
But here's the point. Here's the point. And you talk to any decent runner, and they'll say there becomes a point where you realize you're never going to get any faster. So you're only ever running against yourself. Okay. And I'm not talking about competitive runners. Yes, they're all looking at each other and they're all doing all of the finite tweaks and like
changing the lycra. I hope it helps.
Exactly. But you end up being in competition with yourself. And that's kind of what I have taken on for business and realized is that I'm not looking at anyone else anymore and going, you know, I saw a post by somebody that people may have heard of, I'm not going to mention names, shouting about how many employees he's got and how much, you know, things have turned around since he was on the telly and blah, blah, blah. And great, hands, you know, but if I compared myself to him, I'd be immediately like, I haven't got anywhere near 120 employees. The fact that my businesses employ nearly 50 people, I don't have to manage them. The point to it is that I shouldn't be comparing myself. Oh, 120. There are many reasons for that. That you might be overstaffed. I don't know. You know, the point is those big numbers, those big metrics, they hide so much. And I think as neurodiverse business owners, the only person you have to report to and be honest to is yourself.
Yeah.
And over the years, I have let other people's guiding lights take my attention away from my own, which is actually, I want to be able to take a day off in the week and do what the fuck I like. If the mood or the energy, and if I've got the energy to do something, great. If it means I have to sit on the sofa and just lie there and let my brain do what it needs to do, I have to do that. You know, I get debilitating migraines, and I usually and there's always a trigger, and that trigger will be the cessation of an intense amount of stress.
Yeah.
And so I have to make sure that that stress bucket doesn't overfill, because otherwise I will get a migraine.
Yeah.
So that stress over a longer period of time will be much more easy for me to manage than trying to do it all in a very short period of time and then So I think
Right.
figuring out the key tip and takeaway that I would suggest is figuring it out, what works for you.
Yeah.
And don't let anyone like us even suggest that there's a one size fits all. We've
Yeah.
all got our own various claims for our attention and our energy. So you do you, but think about really think hard about where you spend your energy and what you spend time doing. Hannah Logan, it's been an absolute blast and a pleasure as always. Don't forget, people, like, subscribe, share with the people who you think might enjoy this sort of thing, that might like our musings and perusings. If you want some of this in your inbox, visit thebusinessoddcast.com and sign up for our newsletter, where we will share links that we've mentioned in these podcasts. And we'll remind you of new episodes, because, you know, life can sometimes just, it's another week. I can't believe it's another week. It just seems like Groundhog Day sometimes, Groundhog Week. But we'll be sharing useful info in guides and resources to help with this sort of stuff, to ask you the questions that might help you find the answers that work for you. So businesspodcast.com, sign up, download today. We'll never selling your email address to anyone, because why? We can't get our shit together. No.
Because we don't need the money.
Because we're not going to dance to anyone else's tune. Why don't you mention our business and we'll give you some money? Why didn't you mention our business? Because we forgot. Worst ever. You might get mentioned. If you pay us money, the best that will happen is you might get a mention. But it might not necessarily be in the week that you want it.
Or even the right message. Yeah.
Or the right URL. I've done that before. I'm going to shout out and force my customer to actually have to buy a URL that then redirected to their real URL. One of my less together moments.
My less high moments.
Sending out a mail shot to everyone. Stuart, what's this URL? Oh God, I misspelled it. Okay. Oopsie. So yeah, had to quickly hustle together. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll be here next week, and let us know if we have been useful, if we've been no use whatsoever. You know, if you listened last week, don't tell us that we were no use. We'll just
No, we don't want to know that. And if there's any topics you'd love to hear about,
love the idea of suggesting topics. So get in touch, let us know, and thank you for listening, and have a good week.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you. Step away from PAYE. Don't do it.